Welcome to the Instant Reaction Podcast. I'm Rob Staton and Robbie Williams with you after another dramatic Seahawks win. There's been so many of these over the last 10 years. Robbie, I'm 36 years old now. I'm no longer in my early 20s. I'm not sure how many more of these games I can take. It's great when they win at the end. Huge sigh of relief, but they are exhausting.
Yeah, man. I mean, honestly, I was just saying that I'm going to have a heart attack watching the Seahawks play. Like, that's how I'm going to die. But, man, how fun is this? I mean, winning is always fun, right? If we would have lost, we'd probably be feeling a lot different. But, man, if anything, it's good football. At least it's fun to watch. And, hey, we said don't let Dak have the ball at the end of the game. And he had the ball. So, defense finally showed up there at the end. So, I mean, we'll take it.
There's so much that we need to get into, from what I thought was an amazing last stand from the defense, given all the injuries. We need to talk a bit about the injuries. We need to talk about what was another incredible game. There's just we could probably do like 2 hours on this game. It's so remarkable. I just want to start with this, though. I want to show you what this is that I'm holding here. So I'll show you. It's the lighting. So this is a BC Lions football. When I used to live in Vancouver, I went to a BC Lions game. And they were throwing these into the crowd. And if there's anything free going at a game, I have to have it. So they were throwing these into the crowd, and I said, I have got to have one. One of these gets thrown. It was near the end of the game, so this is kind of like the last chance. One of these gets thrown into the crowd. It hits like the top deck and bounces down. We're on like the lower tier. And it starts to roll down the stairs. And I can see this. I'm on an aisle seat, so I turn around and I can see this football is like two rows back on the stairs. And this kid gets up out of his seat from about 10 rows back and makes a beeline for this, right? And just as he's about to put his hands on the ball, I reach around. I was 21 years old, and I take the ball. And everybody around me is booing. They're throwing popcorn at me. My wife sat next to me. She's put like a hood over her head and she's going, just give him the ball. I was like, no, we're going back to England in a month's time. I am having this, right? That kid would not have looked after this for 14 years. But I get this out every time there's a close game for good luck. It didn't do much in that Super Bowl against the Patriots, but I still think there's a bit of magic left in this ball, Robbie, for a game like this.
That's a terrible story, man. You stole a ball from a kid. Boo! No, I mean, hey, thing about the Seahawks, man, and I'm sure we'll jump in more, but like just, as long as they keep pulling it out, does it really matter how we do it? I mean, the injuries are going to pile up. That's something, we're going to discuss. And, a win is a win. If it's ugly, if it's not ugly, I mean, you can't blame Dallas. I mean, that's a really good offensive football team, right? I mean, that's good. Their defense, I mean, although they were makeshift offensive line there, they were shuffling guys around like crazy, just interesting to see that, we finally were starting to put some pressure there on them at the end. But man, just fun. It's just fun. I like winning. So
I think that let's start with the defense. Let's start with the positive in terms of that final stand. I mean, I just thought that was incredible. When you actually look at who was on the field, you've got Shaquem Griffin, who started off. Now, a lot of people are very positive about Shaquem as a pass rusher. I do not think he's a good pass rusher, and I think you were sort of seeing that. He had nothing today. I mean, he's very fast, but he's not a pass rusher. He just isn't. He's not going to be able to play off the edge and sack, and he wasn't getting any pressure. And then they kind of moved him into like, I want to say it wasn't really a spy type position, but he was kind of just keeping an eye on all the check down stuff. So if Zeke was peeling out, and if Dak wasn't seeing what he wanted downfield, he was checking it down. They were getting 6-7 yards, and it was kind of a slow death. And they put Shaquem there, and he just mopped things up. He was flying from that position. He could fly to the ball if there was a screen, if there was anything going on. He could fly to the ball. He could read and react. And of course, he is very fast. So I thought, fantastic effort. Great decision to move him into that position. It was kind of just one of those unusual things of that last drive. You see Alton Robinson getting a sack. I mean, it just makes a complete mockery of the fact that he was not active last week, so that Luke Wilson could have 0 snaps as the fourth tight end. He didn't even play special teams. Alton Robinson should have been active for at least last week, maybe even the Atlanta game, and we saw there why. well done to Alton Robinson, and just a glimmer of hope that he could provide something in the coming weeks in terms of a pass rush, because, you know, apart from Jaron Reed today, nobody else was. Ryan Neal is basically what? I mean, like the fourth string? I mean, is he the fifth string safety? Because you've got Diggs, Adams, Blair, Amadi, I guess, and then he played nickel, and Leno Hill, who wasn't active today. And you've got Ryan Neal playing there, trying to be Jamal Adams, and he's the one who gets the interception at the end. And had to, you know, if he doesn't catch that, I know it was a bit of a Hail Mary. If he doesn't catch it, Dallas gets another go. So, you know, good on him for completing that. And I'm sure there are others that I've missed. You know, a great defensive effort at the end there, Robbie, to win the game. They needed to get a stop. They got to stop. And however bad this defense is, and, you know, I disagree with you slightly that it doesn't matter how they win, and I'm going to come on to that in a minute. However bad it is, they still deserve 100% amazing praise for the way that they handled that last stand.
Yeah, I'm going to just touch on on Alton Smith, man. That guy, or Alton Robinson, I'm sorry. He should have been playing. I think he's proved it. I mean, just today, like, he was in the backfield. He had, you know, two tackles for losses. You know, he just felt like he was the guy that we've been needing. Like, I mean, not exactly, but he can provide at least a little bit of the pass rush that we need, and, you know, at least gives you a glimmer of hope. And he can grow, he can learn from this, and he can keep, you know, developing his skills in game instead of sitting, you know, on a practice squad. So this, or, you know, inactive. So this, well, for me, was a huge one for me, and I was excited to see him get the opportunity to play. And you know, we were talking about it, you know, pre-week and or during the midweek, and, you know, I'm really excited he finally got the opportunity to get a chance to go. And yeah, I mean, Ryan Neal, he had 4 tackles on the day, and, you know, he came in and he played really well. Like, I mean, you know, losing a guy like Jamal Adams is, like, you know, for us, would have been devastating. I mean, he came in and he provided a little, you know, a little punch and a little, you know, you didn't miss it as much. I mean, you still missed Jamal Adams, but I mean, you know, I'm not saying Ryan Neal's on that level, but man, at least he was able to fill in the gaps. And, you know, I was a little surprised actually when you know, the inactives came out and I saw Leno Hill wasn't active, and I was kind of surprised to see Ryan Neal was. You know, Leno Hill had one of the, you know, part of that big stop last week on Cam, and, you know, I was just, you know, he's got the experience, so it was a little surprising to me. But I mean, at the end of the game, it doesn't really matter to me.
We know we often start with positives and then go on to negatives in these instant reaction pods. So let's stay with the theme of the positives. You know, there was still 100% in the red zone, which is, it's quite easy to forget that the Seahawks used to be bad in the red zone, you know, many years ago, even with Russell Wilson. And now here they are 100%. To be 100% in the red zone is just incredible. And I love the way that they play with confidence in the red zone. It's kind of like they know they're going to score. And it's well executed, good play designs, run through a lot of different varieties. There's a lot of imagination going on there. Brian Schottenheimer and Russell Wilson deserve a lot of credit. I think the other major positive from today is that the offense just stalled and stuttered its way through the second half. I mean, watching it, Robbie, it was strange because, you know, we all know that Dallas's secondary is as banged up as Seattle's. You know, they're missing a lot of players. They don't have any key playmakers in the secondary. And yet there was often times when Russell would get time in the pocket. I mean, it was kind of boom or bust with the pass protection, and no one was uncovering. It was very frustrating. It felt like every completion was like hard earned in that second half. So when they get the ball even with 3 or 4 minutes to go, driving to get the win, you're thinking, personally, I was thinking, I don't know if they can do this. I don't know if they can just turn it on here. And even that last drive was a bit of a slog at times. You know, they got into 3rd down, got into 4th down. They got a huge 4th down conversion to Greg Olsen. But if you're going to be the MVP, if you want to be considered a proper MVP candidate, you have to go and get a win in a situation like that. You look at Mahomes last week, needed a couple of drives to beat the Chargers, and he goes and does it in overtime. Russell Wilson needed a drive there to say, I'm very much in this hunt, because it's okay getting 5 touchdowns. You still have to win games, and you have to have moments, you know, like Heisman moment type things. And he did that today, you know, getting the win, give the defense something to defend. He did it, job done.
Yeah, Russell is playing just incredible. But, you know, like some of those drives too, at the end, you know, we were kind of bailed out by some not injuries, but some penalties. And, you know, rightfully so, they were the right calls. But man, you know, Russ is playing just on a different level, but he did seem today a little skittish. I felt like Dallas got to him early, and he felt like he was kind of popping around and making quick throws instead of like, setting in the pocket, setting his feet and going. It just felt like he was rushed, and, kind of like the Russ of old, where he gets kind of like too much moving in the pocket or gets too excited. And I feel like Dallas kind of got to him a little bit early on. And then you're right. In that second half, I felt like it was a little bit of the same thing. And the offense just stalled. I feel like they were also trying to maybe run the ball a little bit more. It felt like I really hated our third and 3 call that led to that 4th down on that drive. And then we hit DK for the touchdown. But I mean, those are 2 really ballsy calls, by Schottenheimer there, into the game. You need that 3rd down. I mean, I felt like, man, I think it was 2nd and 3, I would have rather seen them run the ball, and they didn't. And 3rd and 3, they throw a deep one, and then right in that 4th down, they go right to DK for the touchdown. And Russ is playing with that confidence to do that, though. So I mean, it's great to see that. So I mean, overall, Russ is just lights out, and it's a huge positive to me. Obviously, one of the big negatives was DK's mental breakdown of not just getting that ball across. I mean, he should have never been that close. If he would have scored that touchdown, who knows how, that could have broke the game wide open. So, a lot of frustrating things about the game. But I mean, overall, man, I'm just super excited. We're 3-0, and like, it's, for me, I'm just having fun right now. It's fun.
I think one final positive for me, and there are others, but I feel. I mean, obviously, we have to wait and see maybe watch the game. I don't know if I can watch that game again. I mean, it was entertaining, but in a kind of, this looks a bit like the Pro Bowl kind of way. Nobody's playing defense. There was not sort of, there was a lot of ugliness that was interesting and exciting, if that makes any sense. So either way, we'll see what the grades are. I thought Amadi played well. I mean, given that he's been kind of thrust into this situation again where they're having to replace Marquise player they had such high hopes for, I don't think Amadi played as well as maybe some of the people in the media and some fans did at the end of last season. So I thought it was encouraging to see him play the way that he did. Right. So some of the concerns, injuries are obviously one of them. But because as soon as you've mentioned Wilson, I'm going to come to that one first. It was concerning to me a little bit because this was the first time we've seen the offense stall. Now, it's pretty clear, given that the Seahawks are just giving up 400 to 500 yards a game in the passing game, that their offense is going to have to keep going and keep going and keep going. And it's going to have to keep scoring and keep applying scoreboard pressure. And if you were 30-15 ahead with a quarter, that's not going to be enough with a quarter to go. It's pretty clear. If you are, what was it last week, 35-23 ahead with even less time, it's not going to be enough. You're going to have to keep scoring and keep scoring. And that, to see it stall like it did was a reminder of that being the fact. And if they play, an Aaron Rodgers or somebody like that down the line, then it's going to be very difficult for them to sort of keep up that pressure, knowing that there's somebody on the other side who can move the ball just as well, if not better.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I could say is, like, honestly, the positive to this is, man, they made the stop at the end when they needed to. And hopefully this is a learning experience for them. And, again, you're starting to get guys like, Robinson in there, Neil, some of these guys, and you just got to see how they're going to play. And I think it's proof that, just throwing out some of these 34-year-old DNs was not probably the smartest decision. And hopefully some of these guys can start developing and really changing the game and helping us play better going forward. And, going into a fourth quarter, as a rookie, big time plays, making plays, that's going to develop confidence and hopefully allows this team to push forward. So I hope they won't have to play the scoreboard game. But I mean, you start looking at our schedule, you got some teams that you should, Rob, be able to stop them on with your defense. You should be able to stop them.
All good teams will have a weakness. There's very rarely a perfect team. The Seahawks in 2013 is probably as close as you're going to get. It's hard to maximize what you're capable of when you have a glaring weakness, though. You just have the best you can be is you can not be very good in some area. The Seahawks, it's not that they're not very good; they're appalling in this pass defense situation. I mean, it's staggering, really. It's very frustrating, actually. And I know it's something we talked an awful lot during the off season. We're seeing it play out now. But to me, the Seahawks look like a team that are primed to be right up there, with the Chiefs and the Ravens as a team that it really needs to be feared. You could just imagine if they had even a semblance of a pass rush right now. They would be, for me, the cream of the NFC. And the Packers are playing very well, but, you know, for me, they would be the cream of the NFC. And yet I have to pause a little bit and think, there's just a little bit too much of a concern there. You know, how it came to be that this pass rush is relying on Benson Mayowa to play 90% of the snaps, doing absolutely nothing, playing way beyond the workload that he's ever had before, is just remarkable. And then, you know, Rasheem Green's injured. LJ Collier, pass rushing's not his thing. You know, he's kind of a power end. You've got Shaquem in there now trying to give you something. Alton Robinson, we're kind of pinning our hopes that he can deliver good performance today. It should never have come to this. They should have done a better job handling this so that it wouldn't be this way. And the end result is that, you know, 470 odd yards for Dak, 472, I think it was, 450 for Matt Ryan, 397 for Cam Newton. People are going, the run defense is really good. No one's having to run. I'm sorry. They didn't even try and establish Zeke Elliott today. And I don't get, you know, a lot of people are positive about Snacks Harrison coming in. For me now, I'm thinking, what's the point? He's just going to take up a chunk of your salary cap because nobody's running on the Seahawks. If you sign Snacks Harrison for, let's say, 2 or 3 million, that might be even a conservative estimate on what he's going to cost. If you bring him in, how is that going to improve your team? If no one's running the ball, he's only going to play like 20 snaps a game, and you're still going to be exposed in the secondary, and now you've got injuries there, and you're still not rushing the passer. So I don't know if there's a big rethink that goes on here. I don't know if they just need to sort of hope for the best for a few weeks and cling on and hope that they don't drop any games. But my worry as a negative, Robbie, is that this should not have been a game the Seahawks lost when it got to 30-15, and they shouldn't have got anywhere close to losing last week. They've nearly dropped 2 winnable games now, and it almost feels like a matter of time until they do. And maybe that'll be next week against the Dolphins, who look good on Thursday, or maybe it'll even be against the Vikings, who will suddenly catch a bit of fire despite an 0-3 start. I don't know, but that's my worry, that they're going to drop a game that they have no business losing.
And they might. I mean, it always feels like every year there's a game we should never lose, and we did. And, you know, I think that's just the nature of football, right? I mean, you come in and you play and can't expect to win all of them, right? So, yeah, but I mean, if you look at it, I mean, you know, Dallas is a good, you know, on the offensive side of the ball anyways, they're a good offensive football team, so it's hard to be super, like, frustrated by that. And, you know, that, I mean, you know, Bill Belichick and the Patriots, they just, you know, you knew Cam was going to find a way to score some points, and just the way they play the football. And Atlanta's got a good offense. So it's like, you know, you're looking at these teams and, like, yeah, they threw for 472, or Dak threw for 472 yards, but he threw the ball 57 times. Like, yeah, 57 times. Like, they didn't try to even establish it. I mean, they tried. I mean, Zeke had 14 carries and he averaged 2.4 yards a carry, and that's not very good. I mean, I'm not saying our run defense is spectacular, but I mean, Zeke Elliott I mean, I don't know about you, but it also seemed like, man, did it just seem like Zeke didn't want to play today? It just, his attitude was just poor. Man, that's beside the point. But I mean, just, you know, he's a good NFL running back, right? One of the top tier NFL running backs, and we're able to hold him to 2.4 yards a carry. Now, again, I'm not saying that our run defense is spectacular, but they did their job today. And the other thing about bringing in sacks, man, I mean, honestly, I think it's more just about a defensive rotation. Like, you don't want to have Puna and Reed and all these guys playing as many snaps as they are. Like, you need to have, you know, you need to mix it up, and you know, you want to save Reeds for some of them rushing down, or you know, third down, getting after the passer as well, because he proved today he's still got it in him. And man, I think he played a pretty good football game today as well.
I think that's a good point on Jaron Reed. You know, the snacks coming in will at least be able to allow you to rotate the defensive linemen a little bit more in the interior, and they have to be able to do that. I don't know. I mean, I just thought the whole run defense thing, it was strange how they used Zeke today, because I thought for part of me thought they were going to really test the Seahawks the run and say, come on, we need to get Zeke going here. And then part of me thought, well, you know, Mike McCarthy had spent all week saying they were going to attack and try and score and do all this and the other, and he seems to have spent his time away from football just following the analytics department of Seahawks Twitter. So every decision he seems to make these days, you know, the Atlanta game was like every one in the book that they argue for. So he did come out and pass an awful lot. The 14 runs, I don't know how many of them were sort of close in goal line, short yardage stuff. That often contributes to a yards per carry that's not looking great when you don't run very often. But they never really even tried. And they seem to use him more sort of on checkdowns and dump-offs and stuff like that as a hot route almost, which was surprising, but then not that surprising given the Seahawks were a sieve in terms of giving up. I mean, there was one drive, Robbie, where it was It took about 45 seconds for them to go 75 yards. I mean, it's not good, and it worries me. But you know, I don't see an answer. When they're losing all the players that they are, and we're going to get onto that next. You can't just go and sign 3 players and paper over the cracks. People are going to have to step up now. You know, your Ryan Neals, your Shaquems, and people like that. I mean, Jordan Brooks is out injured, so I don't know what Cody Barton's going to have to step up, and that's concerning. And then at safety, at corner, Trey Flowers was awful today. Shaquille was awful today. They need Quinton Dunbar back ASAP. The defensive line has got injury issues with Rasheem Green out, and who knows, whether Benson Mayo, who's questionable, will survive another week of this many snaps. So huge issues. And I want to get onto the injuries because I think whether you succeed or not in a season is often hugely dependent on who's actually available when it gets to the end. And when you actually look at the Chiefs at the end of last year, I can't think of any key players that they were missing, Robbie. All of their offensive weapons, Mahomes, obviously the defensive line were there, Chris Jones, Frank Clark, Tyrann Mathieu were all there. They were pretty healthy, as were the Niners. The Niners kind of had a little bit of a run during the season where they had a few out, but then everybody came back for the run. Now, let's just run through who was absent or became absent during the game. So Jamal Adams has got a groin injury. Quinton Dunbar didn't play. Marquise Blair is already out. You've got Jordan Brooks going out. Bruce Irvin was already out. Rasheem Green was already out. Chris Carson now has a knee injury, and who knows how serious that is. I'm kind of looking on social media to see if there's any news from Pete Carroll on that, because it looked like a serious knee injury at the time. We have to hope it's just not, because this is a player who's had injuries throughout his career, and it would really hamper the Seahawks' good-looking running back depth if he was to go. He is one of their key playmakers, as we've seen in the passing game over the last few weeks. Who am I missing? I'm sure there's others as well. The 2 offensive linemen went out. Damian Lewis went out with an ankle injury. Mike Yapati went out with an injury. It's just stacking up, and that is a major concern, and it would be for any team, Robbie.
Yeah, I mean, you could see the shift in the offensive line right away when Damian Lewis went down. That was not a good look. And luckily, I think I read that it was an ankle and not a knee. So, I mean, hopefully it's just a sprain. But man, you could see the difference there for sure. And then, yeah, the offensive line today, honestly, just didn't look very good after he went down. But yeah, I mean, losing Adams is huge. You lose Jamal Adams, and he wasn't able to tough it out and come in and play there at the end of the game. That's concerning for me. And it's the guy that you traded 2 first-round picks for and a third. You want him out there on the field, and so that's very concerning. And then same thing with Carson. I mean, you lose Carson, and all of a sudden you're looking at Travis Homer a lot more, and you're looking at maybe getting DJ Dallas some more touches. But honestly, at the end of the day, you want that guy in the game. He's playing really good right now. I mean maybe not as much as a runner right now as he is a receiver, but I mean, that's the other thing is I didn't see a lot of passes to the running backs today. I'll have to go back and kind of check where that was at. But I felt like we've been throwing the ball to the running backs quite a bit, and today I just didn't feel like we were executing on that. I don't know if Dallas did a good job of taking that away or what, but yeah, the injuries piling up is going to be a huge concern. And like you said, to move on into this league, going into the playoffs and those kind of things, you have to be healthy.
So I've got some updates here. We're doing this podcast straight after the game. Apparently the X-rays on Damian Lewis were negative, so I'm guessing that's good. Nothing broken or anything like that. Sprains, I sprained my ankle. I've broken my ankle in 2 places once and then did it again, and I've sprained my ankle. And you know what? When I broke my ankle, I was back playing soccer in 6 weeks. When I sprained my ankle, I was out for a year. So sometimes a sprain can be worse. If you just break your bone, it can heal quite quickly if you rest up. If you sprain your ankle, it can take. I was on crutches for ages. So that's not necessarily good news, is what I'm saying. In terms of Chris Carson, he's apparently got a knee sprain, and apparently Jordan Brooks has a knee sprain. Now, if you remember a week ago, Bruce Irvin had a knee sprain, and that suddenly turned into an ACL the next day. So it's good that they're not saying ACL at this point, but at the same time, a week ago, we were thinking good things about Bruce Irvin. As for so Lewis's sprained ankle, I've just talked about that. Groin injury, obviously, for Jamal Adams. And apparently Leno Hill has got a back injury, which was why he was inactive. So that's another player out there. I've got no word on Mike Yapati. I'm not seeing anything on him, but I think this is going to be a real test. This is where it's going to put even more pressure on Russell Wilson to go and stick some points on teams. Now the Dolphins look good against the Jaguars. The Jaguars also look pretty crappy against the Dolphins. So what's the defining one here? Can you go to Miami? Hopefully the weather's good, and just put up a ton of yards and do just enough. Because if you can keep scoring at this rate, 38 points today, it is hard to score 30 to 40 points, even against the Seahawks defense. You can put up the yards. To actually outgun Russell Wilson is a difficult thing to do. And they're just going to have to keep scoring at this kind of a rate in order to do it. You mentioned the DK Metcalf thing. And I want to come back to that quickly. As frustrating as that was, and as much as I want to give him a bloody good kick up the arse when it happened, it actually, as time, now that they've won the game and time's come, I'm not as bothered about it as I was at the time. Because when you actually think about it at the time, you're constantly thinking, put 7 points on the scoreboard. And when it got to, 15 or 16 to 9 or whatever it was, I think it was 16 to 9 it was. You're thinking it should be 23 to 9, for example. But then they scored anyway before half time. And this is the kind of thing is when Dak throws the interception with 30 seconds of the half to go and gives you a chance to get 7 more points, it kind of evens itself out. So rather than thinking, the Seahawks have dropped 7 points there, which would have been the story if they'd have lost. Actually, I'm thinking, well, Dak probably doesn't throw the interception if DK scores there. It's a sliding doors kind of situation. And also they missed 2 extra points, the Cowboys. So, they had their own errors that kind of matched things up and kind of took away some of the frustration. He will no doubt learn from that. I'm sure he's going to sprint into the end zone when he gets a chance to do that in future, and will not do that again, Robbie.
I think really the only thing and you're right. I mean, it all played out. It's not like it didn't. But the thing for me, I guess, it's just the momentum of the game, right? When that happens, you give Dallas's defense all of a sudden a boost of confidence. Like, we can do this, we can make a stop. And if you score that touchdown is where I feel like you really put it to them and be like, maybe they start to get a little deflated is all. It's just about the momentum of the game. And, we're lucky it didn't come back and bite us, but it really could have. And, the reality is it didn't. But, those are the things that, rookie mistake, or not even rookie, but just like one of those young guy mistakes, like, just get in the end zone, then do your celebrating, bud.
Let's finish with a thought on the NFC West and where it stands right now. So it's very strange, Robbie. It's hard to know what to make of it. And, Seahawks fans are going to spend probably the rest of the night digesting what they've just seen in terms of this Cowboys game. But then you actually go and have a look at the standings, and it's weird. So the Niners lost to the Cardinals when they had all of their players. George Kittle got an injury in that game and was limited, but generally it was the Nick Bosa was there and Solomon Thomas and Jimmy G and all of that. So they lose to the Cardinals. They then lose nearly everybody. It's like a who's who of Niners players who featured last season is out. And then they don't just go and beat the Jets and the Giants. They destroy the Jets and the Giants despite having this list of teams. So it's kind of strange that you kind of look at the Niners and think, they could easily drop one of these 2 games. They didn't come close to dropping either of these games. And now they're 2-1 and thinking, well, if I get a few guys back down the road, we're back in this thing, which is pretty strange. You look at the Rams. The Rams look so good against the Cowboys. They looked so good last week as well. And then against the Bills, they looked horrible. I mean, the Bills were absolutely tearing them apart. The Bills did a fantastic impression of the Seahawks in the fourth quarter. And, they were like 28 points to whatever up. The Rams kept scoring. It was so easy. Quick drives, missed tackles, throwing it down the field. All of a sudden, the Rams are in front. And, the Bills the Bills were bailed out by the refs right at the end of that game with a terrible pass interference call against the Rams, which extended a drive. And then I think that was on 4th down and gave the Bills a chance to win. Seahawks fans will take that because it ended up meaning that the Rams lost. But they looked pretty bad at times, but then came back in the game. So you're kind of looking at them and thinking, I don't really know how to work them out. Then you've got the Cardinals, destroyed Washington last week, win against a strong Niners team in week 1. Everyone's thinking, wow, look at this team, Kyler Murray and Nuke Hopkins and Chandler Jones and Budda Baker and all these guys, and they're playing so well. And maybe Kyler's in the MVP conversation. then they're going to lose at home to the Lions. And it's just strange. And for that reason, I actually think it makes me feel a lot better about 3-0, because as much as the Seahawks have got problems, I guess everybody else in the division has, and yet the Seahawks have kind of somehow scraped to 3-0, whereas the other teams have all dropped a game.
Yeah, I mean, and also if you look at the Rams game when they played Cowboys, they got away with a PI, or a terrible PI call too, that led them to win the game. I mean, so it came back and bit them. I think football gods reverse that. But yeah, man, you start looking at the NFC West, and again, it's everyone's got a winning record, and it's going to be. You definitely can't count out the Niners, man. You felt like maybe with all the injuries you would have been able to, but they keep winning, and Kyle Shanahan keeps putting up points. So I'm not super surprised by it, but I guess I am a little bit disappointed. I was hoping they would drop one of these games. It doesn't appear to be that way, and it's going to be one of those where we're going to come down. And when we start playing some of the NFC West teams, this is where we're really going to see how we fare. And I'm happy with 3-0. You're right. It makes me feel better that we are 3-0, because we haven't dropped a game yet, and I think if our offense can keep playing the way it is, we're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
I just please, this is my message to the Seahawks as a collective group right now. You're not watching this podcast, but I'm telling you anyway. I cannot do another 13 weeks of this. I just can't. I'm an older man. I have 2 kids. All my hair is gone. I need a break. I need a weekend when I can just sit back, watch a game of football, and a 30-15 advantage becomes a handsome win, or a 35-23 advantage becomes a handsome win. Not needing desperation stops at the end or drives from Russell Wilson. Just please finish a game so that we can just relax for 1 week. And also, it's strange, isn't it? Because last year there was the whole points differential thing, Robbie, and look at this. The Seahawks have got a points differential of 7 or something, and how are they going to be able to do that again and all this? And yet here we are. They've won by 7 again today. They won by, what was it, 5 or something the other night? Yeah. 5 points. It's happening again. They're kind of winning these ridiculously close games. I think that speaks to Pete Carroll's culture and to Russell Wilson and everything like that. But I bloody like them to win a game that was just a bit more like the Atlanta one, but even that got close for a little bit in the fourth quarter. Let's just have a game where you step on the throttle and you pull away and you say see you later to the opponent, as opposed to saying catch up with us and make a game of it.
Yeah, they sure make it interesting, right? Well, I mean, here's the thing. It's better than a loss. I'll take it. I'll take the win over a loss. And I think offensively we played really well. I don't think the offensive line played. I think they had a really bad game, really rough game. And I think they got to Wilson. They rattled him. And man, even then, Russell threw 4 or 5 touchdowns today. So I mean, this is a good. We've got a good team, and we can keep pushing forward. And hopefully the defense can start developing. And really hope that some of these young guys come in and start playing well. You can only hope for the best. And right now, we're 3-0, and I'll take it.
Yeah, old reliable Dwayne Brown didn't have a great game today, did he, against Alton Smith? Only the Seahawks had maybe took a punt on someone like Alton Smith during the off-season. That would have been nice. Anyway, I've got to mention, we didn't mention this last time. Shout out to Robbie's backdrop, which is just fantastic. Look at that. That was like a professional podcast, Robbie.
Yeah, I did that just for you.
Unlike my backdrop of a living room, yours is looking pretty special there. So congratulations. I think that maybe just boosted everybody and gave a bit of energy to the team going into this game. So well done.
Thank you.
It's nice. Right. So the Seahawks are 3-0. We'll be back in the week looking ahead to the Miami game, which I think originally was going to be in London, which would have meant I could have gone to the game. But here we are. It's not, no one can go anywhere. And hopefully the Seahawks can go to Miami, long trip, and get another victory and go to 4-0 next week. There's more on the blog, more analysis on this game in the Instant Reaction blog post. I also wrote a piece about a pass rusher from Pittsburgh that I watched on Saturday. The college football is back now, so go and check that out. Really interesting prospect, pass rusher as well. Obviously, maybe a need. It will be a need in the off-season as well. So go and have a look at that. Share this video, like this video, give us your thoughts on the game in the comments section. If there's something we should have discussed that we didn't, let us know about it and spread the message for this podcast. Get it out there. Tell your friends that it's there. Get them to have a listen. It's perfect for after a game. Right after the game, we'll get into it. and dig through everything that needs to be talked about. Enjoy your weekend, the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the fact the Seahawks are 3-0. We'll see you next time.